What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Play It Out podcast. My name is Kyle, aka Creator Gator, and I'm here with my comrade in arms, James. James, how are you doing?
Gamer.
I'm ready, dude. Yeah, I'm excited. This week they gave us so much stuff to talk about. I was like, I don't know if I can wait to the weekend to talk about this. This is hype.
This edition's going to be spicy.
Yeah, it is. Yes, it is. So today we're going to be talking about the article that they gave us on April 10th. So 2 days ago. It's funny because it's only
seems old.
Yeah, two days ago. But because they've given us so much things to talk about, it feels a little bit old.
Yeah, dude, I'm telling you. Today we're gonna be on one today, but I can tell you that this edition is going to get amazing. I'm so excited.
And we've talked about it a little bit, you know what I mean? Because we just can't help ourselves. We have to talk about it. But I definitely think the first 3 months is going to be everyone's going to be like, oh, wow, everyone can do everything. It's going to be crazy. You know what I mean?
A lot of the faction locked, abilities are now universal.
Yep, universal. And everyone has access to them and everyone can use them, which is good, I think. I think it's I'd rather live in that world than oh, you know what I mean? We're not... Only some people get to play with the cool toys.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of the cool toys, so they covered the commands and the command point system. So briefly, in summary, wait. Before we get there, do we want to just quick shout out to all our rat fans?
Oh, that's true. True. They also I forgot about that. They also showed us the rats because, again, we're a competitive focused podcast. We care about the rules probably first and foremost.
Always.
But new models are pretty hype, and they finally showed us the rats. They did it. They showed us the rats.
Yep. We talked earlier a little bit about this again because we can't help ourselves. But I thought they did a really good job with at least what I'm seeing with because they're just clan rats, right? These aren't any special rats. We saw the vermin leader. I can't remember what he's called. The claw leader, who actually looks sick. With he's got a spiked shield and a cool little armor.
That's just the unit champion, right?
It's unit champion, yeah. But I think they did a good job of being hey, this is your, peasant rats. You know what I mean? These are the guys that are going in droves, into the meat grinder.
Yeah. The thing that I like the most about this is it's definitely a visual upgrade. It's one of those things where they look way better, and I'll show a picture that they gave us where it's in comparison of the two next to a Stormcast Liberator.
Mm-hmm.
They look so much better, but they also do invalidate the old ones, and it's I feel you should have led with that. Why did you come out and be oh, by the way, Skaven, you're losing clan rats? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everybody's what do you mean I'm losing clan rats? I own 120 of them.
That's the thing that we do,
That's what we do. Yeah, just show me the clan rat and be guess what? You're getting sick new clan rats. But they're on the same base, and they look the same. They're the same size.
Yes, and they're also the style is very homogenous. It feels the same, which is nice for people. Exactly that. Everyone, I'm quoting you from 30 minutes ago, but everyone that's plays Skaven has hundreds of clan rats and has owned them forever.
Yeah.
If you get 20 of these guys and toss them in your range, they're gonna feel like clan rats, just new sculpts and refreshed models, which is gonna be cool for I think that's cool for people that are getting that are obviously in their heyday now because they're the stars
the
of the
launch
show for this
faction.
edition.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to see all the stuff. And we've already seen the gunner guy got leaked.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? They also leaked a engineer. And if I find an image of that, I'll put it up here too.
Yeah, I didn't see that one. That's cool.
Yeah, they apparently sent a sprue out in a Horus Heresy kit, and someone just got it and put it together. And they're oh, look, you guys are getting a new, it's a hero model with a warp gun. You know what I mean? That looks cool. Very techie. So someone assumes that it's a new warp engineer or something like that. So it's funny how they've gotten one official reveal and two unofficial reveals. But that brings us to the meat of the conversation and the thing that we're chomping at the bit to talk about, which is new command point systems. And that's something that's
amazing.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I think like we're saying it's amazing now because we've had 2 days to process it, right? Like we initially read it, and I think we all had a little bit of like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? But the core concept is instead of getting command points how we get them now, you get 4 command points for the whole round, right? Because this edition it's going to be a lot more interaction back and forth. Whose turn it is doesn't matter as much.
Yep.
They also showed us what the underdog mechanic is, and praise be to Sigmar, it's not a gambit system. It's just at the start of the round, if you have less victory points than your opponent, you get 1 extra command point.
Which is nice, because I feel like that should be more indicative than like first and second, you know? Because sometimes you can be going first and you're way behind, you know?
Yeah, and it's also like because there are 10 commands, you know what I mean? Like that is nice because there's more things that you can use it on. Obviously, like if you only have 4 command points, you can only use 4 of those. So you have to pick very specifically. If you have 5, now you can pick 5, and you have 6, now you can pick 6. You know what I mean? So it gives you more options for the big ones that we're going to be talking about. But it doesn't feel, it's not like something that's like, oh, by the way, you just get victory points. You know what I mean?
Or command points. Yeah.
No, but I mean, like, I would rather them give us victory point or command points than just give us victory points as an underdog mechanic.
Yes, I agree. Like I don't want it to impede the score of the game. I want it to impede the play of the game.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah, I want to make it a little bit easier for you to catch up, but I don't want you to just be like, oh, by the way, I'm gonna snowball the first, or I'm gonna submarine the first 2 rounds. That way, I can get the maximum amount of points, which is really this. You know,
just like an easy 30 points at the end of the game or something like that. Yeah. My only caveat to this new command point system is I feel like in every article they've mentioned like how scarce, quote unquote, that the command points are going to be, and when you do the math, you have the same, if not more, in some cases than we did before.
True.
So.
This is like big assuming that we don't have like every faction has 2 people that give free command points, or every time you cast a command, you roll a dice and on a 5-up you get it back. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Or it's like, or some people just the first command they cast per turn is free, 100%. Like I think that those things are coming, but like I just think that that you have more things to spend them on now, which is cool. But they aren't as scarce as I think they were letting on originally.
Yeah, it's like I do think it's going to feel scarce because, as we'll talk about, one of them costs 2, and there's 10 of them. So like you really have to choose which ones you're going to do. You know what I mean? It's not like I feel like because there was a lot less choice, it was like you're really just saving it for all out. Like unless you have a rally thing, unless you have like something
or
that you're
leadership. A lot of times you're saving it for leadership. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't care about leadership. You know how many factions?
Stormcast.
Yeah, but you know how many factions have like leadership 10? You know what I mean? And then like units of 3.
I have leadership 5. So I have to think about that every time. If you breathe on my guys, they're scared.
They also confirmed that the command points are like it's gonna work similar to how it is now, where they go away at the end of the round, which is nice. I like that. I don't want anyone to
snowballing.
Yeah, I don't want anyone to store them up and then just dump them and be like, oh, by the way, I had a massive turn and now you lose.
You lose. I command pointed you to death.
I command pointed. Yeah, exactly. Which is avoiding some of the pitfalls that I think you and I had with 40K when we first started, where it was you just get them all at the beginning and basically you can spend them all at once and just do a massive turn.
And just like completely cripple your opponent's army. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I also like that because like a lot of the people that aren't excited for 4th is because they're like, I really liked 3rd. I thought 3rd was great. You know what I mean? Outside of like some things like GHB specific issues, I thought like the core mechanics of the game were pretty good. So I'm glad that they're keeping stuff that we like. You know what I mean?
A lot of the changes, like overarching view, a lot of the changes kind of seem like an elaboration, not a rewrite. You know what I mean? Like they're essentially like restating certain rules to make them cleaner, removing certain interactions so they're less gamey, and like adding things in that like certain factions love, and now everyone gets to enjoy it, you know?
Yep. Yeah. And like we'll cover it when we get there. There's a lot of stuff that with commands still stays the same. So I enjoy that. Although one thing that is different, and I think is a simplification, is you don't have to cast it, or you don't have to command it from a hero or a general or a unit leader or an elite keyword or a totem. Yeah, it just basically it's more like you're the person spending it, and you get to choose which unit you spend it on. If that makes
it's a little more
sense.
simple.
Yeah, I would think that's more simple.
Yeah, it's easier too because I've been in games or I've been in tournaments where like I look across the table and somebody's like, "Okay, I'm going to all out attack for this shooting attack," and I'm like, "Okay, who's casting
giving
on it?"
Yeah,
yeah, and they're like, "What do you mean who's giving it?" And I'm like, "Well, like, are those elite units? Because those are like individual models, you know, like." And it's like I don't want to be that guy, but like I just know that like it's important, you know, and it's a rule, like. You know, and it's nice that it's kind of again, it's just like taking away like the ranges for melee weapons. You know what I mean? This is making game interactions more simple, you know,
and more like intuitive. Because I've also had those conversations where it was like people are like giving something a command. And you're like, all right, who's giving it? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Where's it coming from?
And that's just a real feel bad mechanic. Like when they're like, oh, excited to do a thing. And then you basically stop them and be like, no, what are you doing? Can't do that.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. That's the game.
Plan for this. I'm sorry.
That feels pretty bad. They also mentioned because like OCR Bone Reapers rely so much on command points and like all of that kind of stuff. They said that their new rules, they have like strong new rules to compensate.
Don't think they need them.
We'll see. I don't know.
You've seen them on the leaderboard. I think they're pretty okay.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see how much their rules changed. Spoiler for next podcast. They revealed a lot of the Stormcast rules. So we'll be talking about that in the next podcast. But I'm
I don't
excited.
want to say anything.
Yeah. I'm just excited for how they're going to do that with every faction. So we'll leave it at that. And then I'll pull up the first image that they gave us in the article. And this is just a breakdown of how the commands work. So we have a nice little symbol that shows us what like is a command, which I know is probably not the biggest deal for most people, but as a Stormcast player, you know how many times I'm like, the holy commands, they don't say they cost command points, but they are technically commands. Yes. So I do have to spend command points on them.
Yes.
And I don't know if other factions have that issue where it was like,
weirdly ambiguous.
They would just call it a command and assume that you knew that you were going to spend a command point on it. So now we have a very nice symbol. It is a hexagon, and then it tells us how much it costs in there.
Big hexagon guy.
They explain the underdog mechanic. They explain the 4 command points per round. Each unit and then the other ones are basically the same as they are now. Each unit can only use 1 command at a phase, so you can't all attack and all at defense from the same unit. And each command can only be used 1 time by each army in each phase, so you can't all attack. Unless
otherwise stated, most likely.
We'll see how that goes. And then you have to obviously pay the command point use command. I like it. Easy. A lot of that stays the same as what we know and love. Yep. If you want to do cool stuff, you got to pay for it.
Yeah, you got to pay for it. You want to do a cool little dance? You got to pay the piper.
All right. The next image that they showed us is interesting because it's related to commands, but it's not command specific. It's about the abilities.
This is, I think, leads into kind of what we talked about in the last podcast, where they're going to boil, like, instead of basically going in sequence, like being more clear on sequencing of turn or sequencing of phase. They're going to use this like declare, react, resolve mechanic. Where essentially like, oh, like me and you are playing each other. I'm like, I am going to charge, or I'm declaring my attack. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then you're like, you using your reaction as is your God-given right. You will do all out defense. Yeah. And then I will, go all out attack, or it's like, and then it would resolve, right? And
so it's the opposite. So it's basically like the person who's going, you will declare an ability, right? And then you basically get the first reaction. So there's things in here like
so I would go all out attack, and then you go all out defense, and then it would be right.
You all out attack, and then you react to yourself, saying, "I now." Starting with the active player, the player's alternate using abilities with the appropriate reaction timing. So basically, you say, "I'm going to attack with this unit," right? And then you have the first go on if you would like to react to you attacking, right?
Okay.
So that is when you would all out attack.
Got it. So you can't. Oh, that's important. Because then you can't if all out attack is coming if you're going to all out defense. That's actually massive.
Which I'm pretty sure that's how it works now.
Pretty good.
I think like it's very
blah blah.
Yeah, very conversational. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's like I'm watching you roll dice, and I'm like over here, and I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot. I'm not looking, but I'm all out defensing. You know?
Yeah, but again, it's one of those things. Like a lot of times, like because I think this. I can see a situation where this would get a little tough because it's like because you as the as the action player, right?
Mhm.
Like you basically have to offer them a time that they can say, but also, you know what I mean? Because if you don't and you just start rolling dice, like then they have every right to be like, hey, I was going to all out defense that. And then they have information. You know what I mean? Like,
there is going to be like, people are getting hung up on the words of all of this, and I completely understand why, because like it feels weird. Like you would never say, I'm going to use an attack ability from this unit to this unit, and then I will react to me doing an attack ability with my reaction command, which is going to be all out attack, and then you are now able to react. Would you like to react? You know what I mean? Like
I am a robot.
Exactly.
This is what I sound like.
People are kind of like looking at this and being like, this is like very video game. This is like how you would code a video game. You know what I mean? And like, I love that because it takes a lot of the like confusion and blah, blah, blah out of it. You know what I mean? Like, I know you were confused about it, but I feel like if you look at the image, it very clearly says, you know, starting with the active player, you can now react. And then scrolling down, it shows us what things we're reacting to.
Yeah, because there's different types of commands. There's like reaction commands and, you know, just standard commands. What do they call them? They just call them commands.
Commands, yeah. They also like again, this kind of gets into the programming aspect of this. So these reactions basically come after an ability of some kind is declared, right? However, there's 4 reactions, and 3 of them are you reacting to yourself. The only one that is a reaction to your opponent doing something is all defense.
Yep.
So
I'm super reactive, dude. I'm all over the place. You see me? I go left, I go right.
But does that make sense about the like how? Because like they've stated multiple times about the everything's an ability. You know what I mean? So like I'm going to use a move ability, and then I use my move ability, and then I can react to my move ability, and then you can react to my move ability, and then we go on to we resolve it, and then we go on to the next one.
Yeah, I definitely think I know how this is intended.
Yes.
I can tell you that this is probably going to get blah, blah, blah again. That's 100%. My anticipation. Like, and it's like...
a lot of people who, like, are getting hung up on this whole thing, they're like, this doesn't feel like a war game. This feels like a computer game or like Magic the Gathering, you know what I mean? Where you have, like, a stack of, like, effects that are resolving and stuff like that.
Yeah. Wasn't the lead game designer, like, he worked in video games before this, right?
Probably.
I'm pretty sure I think that was a part of one of the interviews during... I don't know if he was the lead game designer or he was like one of the senior game designers, but essentially one of the people that like was very integral to this edition coming out comes from the video game world.
Yeah.
Which feels very like, okay, like this is like I'm playing Magic online. You know what I mean? And it's like I hit my button and then my opponent gets the thing where it's like you want to react to him pressing button.
Yeah. Also, here's the shiny thing around your card that says these are the things that you can use. Would you like to? And then you have to click the button that says no, I would not like to do that.
As a game system, it's nice that that's ironed out, you know?
Yes. And this is like, people are like, oh, that doesn't feel like a war game. You know what I mean? It feels like very blocky and stuff like that. And I'm like, in my opinion, you're going to read these rules once. You're going to understand them. And then the only time you're ever going to go back to reading these rules and doing them how like they're laid out like this is when there's like a rules discrepancy. You know what I mean? And in that instance, I think it's going to be way more clear than the text, the like wall of text that you have to lead into, and you kind of have to like read like a lawyer. You know what I mean?
I agree. It's nice that they give you these little blocky things. It's like, hey, this is the important part. Like, this is how it plays.
Yeah.
Like, in addition to the actual like commands, which we're going to get to in a second, it's nice that they're giving you these blocks of like, hey, this is exactly how the interaction works between these things. You know?
Yeah. It's definitely going to get confusing because every ability works like this, and I think there's going to be certain things, either faction specific or otherwise, that are going to be interacting with this. So we'll see how that goes. But I like that it is laid out and that the frame, like this whole edition is basically about laying down the framework of like how it's supposed to work instead of being like, here's a massive book of rules and like massive paragraphs where you have to read it like a lawyer and then understand how everything interacts with that, you know?
Yeah.
So. But yeah, that brings us to the first reactions. Do you want to talk about alt attack and alt defense?
Yeah, dude. Super complicated, really new and like you know, trailblazing. You know, all out attack +1 to hit.
Crazy.
Mm-hmm. You know, all out defense +1 to save.
Nutty. I actually a thought that all defense was going to get changed in one way, shape, or form, because I was hoping that they would potentially reduce save stacking in this edition, but I don't think.
We're not going to see that again.
No.
It's not like I don't think I legitimately think the game is going to look very similar. I don't think a lot of the interactions. It wouldn't surprise me if a lot of the war scrolls we've seen, which we're going to talk about one later, it doesn't seem that different. You know, what your models do, they're probably going to continue to do just slightly differently.
Yep, 100%, and ideally more clearly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So both those are 1 command point, which is nice.
Yep, nice and easy.
Yep, super easy, and that brings us to the other 2 reactions that we have.
Why don't you take those, Kyle?
Sure. So the first one is at the double, and you're reacting to you declaring a run ability. So you basically say, I am going to do a run ability.
I shall run.
And then I'm going to react to that run ability. And I'm going to use the at the doubled command, and I -1 command point. And then I basically, when I run, I don't roll a d6. I just add 6 to the move.
Nice.
Boop.
Easy. It's dude. Crazy.
It's crazy. It's crazy when it be like that.
Rules that we already have. It's crazy. I love the reprint, dude.
I know. So I actually don't have the text in front of me, and I don't want to look it up at what at the double and forward to victory looks like right now, right? But I so much rather have it be used by effect. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree.
That makes happy in my brain.
Yeah, it's easy to make fun of, right? Yeah. That's what we're here for. It's a podcast. You know what I'm saying?
True.
I do appreciate it, right? But I'm not going to give you a pat on the back for reprinting rules. I'm not going to give you a pat, you know?
True.
2 + 2 does equal 4. Good job, Games Workshop.
Yeah.
Good job.
And then in a similar fashion, forward into victory is a reaction that you declared a charge ability. And there's a lot of discourse about this online, because if you read it, it says used by the unit using a charge ability, right? Yep. The effect is you can re-roll the charge. Now, there are kind of 2 different camps, and it all comes down to what the text says about you declaring a charge ability, right?
Rules as written.
So, if the rules in the core rules say when you declare a charge ability, you roll 2d6, and at that point, you can re-roll. You know what I mean? But with this, you can then re-roll that, right?
Yeah.
If that is not included in that text, if it's just a declare and then you don't roll, you basically have to prepay that command point that says, if I don't like it, I can re-roll it. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I think there's going to be something. I think it's going to be the first way, just because all of these are
the same.
I don't think that makes the rule better, is essentially what I think.
Yeah.
I think it actually feels worse and way less I'm going to use the ability. Right now it's almost I know
taking out an insurance policy on that dice roll.
I'm just I don't think I think it is. I think it's intended as the latter, but I think rules as written, it's probably the former.
I think it's going to be the former. I think there's just going to be when they talk about in the core rules of what a charge ability, when you declare a charge ability, it's going to be when you declare a charge ability, pick an active unit or pick one of your units that's within 12 of an enemy and roll 2 dice.
Yeah, or they're going to put something in there that says re-roll means you can change it once. They're going to use re-roll as a keyword, and it's essentially, okay, once you have the first roll down, then you can decide to use the re-roll. You know?
Because they say re-roll, I think it's the former. I think there's going to be something where it's declaring the charge roll equals roll the dice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I kind of almost like the other way better, just because.
You like the insurance policy?
I like the insurance policy because charging in this game is very efficient. You know what I mean? I think that would make you prepay for that to reduce the amount of commands that you can use later, if that makes sense.
But do you think it's a good game interaction?
I just don't like getting charged.
I know that. You play a shooting army, Kyle.
If they want to charge, they got to pay the toll roll.
I'm asking you, Kyle, do you think it's good for the game?
No, I think every this is the
I just
fourth.
want to get charged. Okay, stop hitting me.
This is the fourth of the reactions. The other three reactions have operated basically exactly the same as we have them now. I think this one will also operate basically the same as we have them now.
Yes, agreed.
Makes sense. And that gets us into the spice. Oh, the stuff that the internet has been going crazy.
The macaroni.
Thinking about all the combos.
With the chicken strips.
With the chicken strips. Do you want to walk us through Rally? Because Rally has changed a lot.
Yeah, it is. And I think it's way more consistent, which is nice. It's worse. Like, don't get me wrong. It's worse.
Yeah, as of right now.
Yeah. I think so essentially what they did with Rally was they pushed I'm going to give you the blah, 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 and then I'm going to go back and read it, right?
Sounds good.
So the blah, blah, blah is they pushed heroic willpower, or not heroic willpower, heroic recovery and Rally into one command, right? Yep. Essentially, you look at a model and you can either heal it for a certain amount of wounds, or if you roll a certain amount of dice that equals the health, you can bring one model back, right? Yep. The actual words are declare, pick a friendly model that is not in combat to use this ability. The effect, make 6 rally rolls of a d6. Yep. For each 4+1, you gain 1 rally point. The rally points can be spent as follows. For each rally point, you can heal 1 that unit. So basically, you can heal 1 HP for that unit. Heal 1 health. Or you can spend the number of rally points equal to the health characteristic of that unit to return a slayed model to that unit.
Yep.
You can spend rally points in any combination of the above. Unspent rally points are lost after this command is resolved, right? Huge. So this will cast 1 command point, right? This does mean that you can't just roll hot on a couple dice and get some Stormstrike Guard back.
Everyone's bringing out the Stormstrike Guard. Why is that the model? What about that?
Because you can get monsters back.
What about that? Rolls. Like -1 save, 4 wounds, 5 up ward Trog. That is so hard to remove.
Because my Trogs are one Trog is way easier to remove than 1 dragon. And it's the same rally roll.
Yeah, that's true.
But essentially, like, this removes the spikiness of Rally by making it like a raw health roll. In addition, you can use it to heal your heroes, heal your monsters, heal like an important buff piece that got took a couple mortal wounds. Like, it makes it a much more versatile command. So I think we're going to see it in a lot more armies, like, going forward.
Yeah. The big things that pop out to me specifically is everybody in the internet was like making fun of it. They're making fun of it because, like, you rally rolls and then heal is like bolded and there's a parenthesis 1 around it. You know what I mean? Like, it's very, again, computer programming, gamey kind of thing.
Yes.
But overall, this is one of those things that you're going to read once, you're going to understand how it works, and then everybody's going to understand how it works. And I think that works so much smoother than how I've seen like 40K do it. I don't know do you remember like 40K's text when it came to like Necron's recovery, because they had something similar?
Because I refused to read it.
It was a book. It was literally like 3 paragraphs, and like it was basically this, where it was like you had to roll the amount of dice, and those dice you would put them together to like equal like 3 wounds to get a thing back, and it was just a pain. And this is like way more clear about it. There's also versatility in the healing of the big models. You can also heal, like my Stormcast that have 2 wounds. I can choose to heal one, and then get them back. And I don't. It's like in previous editions and 40K. There was like, if there's a wounded model, you can't return models to the unit until you heal the thing. But guess what? Your abilities don't say that you can heal that model. So then you just can't return it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, which is really annoying. And it's like, it opens this ability that is in a lot of armies, right?
Yeah.
To armies it wouldn't be in before. And it's like kind of a smaller version of it, but it's nice that you have that versatility. You have that tool in your tool belt,
Yeah. And I think this is the most bare bones that they give to everyone. I'm sure like Stabas and Skeletons and Zombies are, instead of making 6 rally rolls, they're going to have an ability that says whenever you use a rally command
roll
on this
12.
guy's, roll 12. You know what I mean? Or like you're going to have heal 2 instead of heal 1. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For specific units that are multi health. So
I mean, we already have an example of that. The Nagash War Scroll has a version, like his spell, like his signature spell is like a smaller version of this. Or it's like a
bigger.
it's you can cast it multiple times, and he's a 9-cast wizard, but you can heal, like, you can either hold on one second, I'm just pulling it up real quick. You can return a number of models equal in a target unit with a combined health of 3. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's one of the spells. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, instead of rolling, on average in a rally, you're going to get 3 4-ups. You know what I mean?
You could also combine that with death.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I'm saying is like, it's nice because, like, this rule that is tied to the god of death, now everyone has access to it once, and it costs 1 command point.
Yep. Yep. And it's in the hero phase. So pretty similar. The words got smoothed, and it's reduced on its core aspect. And like, I think this whole edition is, their goals are bring new people in, set up the foundation of the rules so that they work. You know what I mean? So that like you can iterate on them, and they're not going to break. They're not going to break, at least at the rate that they used to break, right? And they want to bring the swinginess down. So like this is one of those things where like they're reducing the swinginess instead of just getting back a random 9 wound or 9 health model, right? You can only, if you roll hot, you get 6. You know what I mean? At the core element of it.
Yeah, it's hard for me to get a Trog back.
Yes, at the core. You know what I mean? I'm sure there's going to be some things that like help that. Maybe there's going to be heroes that
do that better.
I don't know. There'll be things, but this is like the core groundwork of how this is going to work, so they can iterate on it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Which is good.
Yeah.
The
next one.
Yep, go for it.
Redeploy. So this is similar. You pick a friendly unit that's not in combat to use this ability. Each model in that unit can move up to D6. That move cannot pass through or end within combat range of another enemy unit. Very similar to the current redeploy command. Yep.
That is something that, so anything that is taking place in the enemy phase. So the reason they put this rally down here is any hero phase redeploys enemy movement phase. The rest are going to be in the enemy phases. So what they told us in this article is basically your opponent is going to be able to move all of their stuff, and then at the end of the movement phase, the person who's not going, the person whose turn it isn't, then can choose if they want to use these these like commands that operate in the other person's turn.
Yeah, which is honestly kind of nice, because then it's like
you have a window,
there's a place for it. Yeah. You don't have to make this you don't have to do this like back and forth every time where it's like, all right, I moved. Would you like to redeploy?
Yep.
All right, I moved. Would you like to redeploy? And it's like,
and there's always like a that would always boil down to there's a best choice. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So like you had a choice of when to do it, but there was always a best one. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And in an important caveat to this one that's different than the current one, it has nothing about an enemy ending within 9 inches of it. So this is a redeploy anywhere.
Yes.
If
you have slow dudes that are, foot slogging up in the back and they didn't make their run roll good last time, this is an opportunity to get them forward this time in your opponent's turn. You know what I mean? So there's
it's a movement game.
It's a movement game. And I think like we've talked about before, I think all of these commands give everyone like relatively simple tools, but are extremely impactful and let you do impactful things on the other person's turn, which is like very interesting. It's going to feel a lot less of, okay, it's your turn, I'm going to walk away, let me know when I have to roll my save.
Literally. Like it's a lot less like, okay, I'm just going to get hit for a while.
Yeah.
All right, are we in the fighting phase? Now I can actually play,
Yep. Yeah. The other thing is this one has keywords where the other ones above don't have keywords, which is interesting. But this one has move and run on them, which is going to be important in the future.
Yeah. I'm sure that there's certain things where it's like models can limit run rolls, models can limit movement, or there's like I'm not saying that specifically, but there's rules that will pull those keywords in that will affect this.
Yeah. And
you can't redeploy.
One of the people that we play with at our local game store, he suggested, and he pointed this out to everyone, because everyone on Twitter and everybody was like talking about how you can combo all of these movement abilities together, and it's like going to be insane. And he pointed out, this one has the run, like the redeploy has the run thing. What can you not do if you run currently?
Charge
or shoot.
Yeah, or shoot.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's going to be important. Again, that's speculation, but I would assume that would work probably the same way going into the next edition. That
Yeah.
if you run in either your enemy movement phase or your movement phase, you can't shoot unless you have a special rule that says so.
Yeah.
And that takes us into the next ability, which is like very spicy.
Oh, dude, these next two are the like
my long strikes or my four dragon strong unit of storm drakes is looking at this and being like, that's kind of hot, spicy.
That's kind of hot.
So this is covering fire, and this is in the enemy shooting phase, and I pick a friendly unit that is not in combat to use this ability. So important. So you can't like double tap someone that you're already in combat with. And then the effect is you resolve shooting attacks from that unit, but all the attacks must target the nearest visible enemy unit, and you must subtract 1 from the hit rolls of those attacks. So it's kind of replacing Unleash Heck, right? Unleash Heck notably gone. Right, we'll talk about what's going on in the charge phase.
Big fan.
As a man who likes charging,
unleashed frequently.
Yeah,
big fan.
Yeah. So the big caveats are you have to shoot all things have to shoot the same target. They're all shooting at the nearest visible enemy target. So there's a lot of counterplay for that. So there's going to be a lot of like people making sure and measuring that you can't get free shots on important stuff, and then you have to subtract 1 from the hit rolls. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You also can't double because it's in the shooting. Like you can't double it up with all out attack. So there might be like this subtract 1 from the hit rolls will probably hurt harder than it would in your turn. You know what I mean?
Yes.
There's going to be less ways to get that 1 back to 0. So
yeah, it's also going to be really interesting to see. Like I can see a world because the shooting phase. This is the end of the enemy shooting phase, right?
Yes.
Movement's already happened.
Yeah.
The thing that they want to charge you with is as close as it can possibly be.
It's basically, I mean, it's basic, like how it's going to play out is going to be a lot like Unleash Heck, right?
Yeah.
But or like, there's so much stuff that's happening with this, especially with like now they're starting to talk about faction abilities. You know what I mean? Where it's like, yo, if I'm a Stormcast and I drop down in the movement phase, guess what? He's closest, and you get to shoot me. You know what I mean? Something's gonna shoot me.
Literally, it's like it stops deep strikes from just getting. I mean, it's almost a carbon copy in that scenario of Unleash Heck.
Yeah,
but there's
the threat is still there.
Well, the threat's still there, and in addition, you can just ping it off whenever you want. You know what I mean? Like it gives you the ability to use it in phases you won't get charged.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. That's the other thing. Like with Unleash Heck, you're taking it once. With this, you could potentially take it every enemy or like every shooting phase of yours. You could potentially be getting shot by, I don't know, maybe a frigate, maybe a 6-man unit of long strikes with like currently 30-inch range. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I think the ranges are going to get like squeezed.
They better. Because
I think they are. I think you're going to get like 24 on long strikes, and that's going to be like the longest one.
Yeah,
like, it's going to be like one of the longer.
I hope so, because like that, this is one of the ones that everyone's freaking out about because like nobody likes getting shot. It doesn't feel good, and now like basically for 1 command point, you can now shoot every turn instead of just in your turn. So
you can shoot 10 times a game, not 5.
Exactly, and one thing, like you said,
you can shoot one thing though. You can't shoot multiple things.
Yeah,
but
and it's 1 unit. And like you said, the enemy movement phase already happened. So like if they basically put their big unit in a position where they're going to get shot by this, that's kind of they literally put them there, understanding that this is something
that is kind of their fault. Yeah, it's again changes play.
It just cool. It definitely changes play. And then Mr. Charge O'Clock, do you want to tell us about what's going on in the enemy charge phase?
Oh, they're cooking, Kyle. Oh, Games Workshop's cooking.
I wish I would have said it on the podcast. We were talking about predictions. We said it in a side conversation where I was like, I feel like when they said like, oh, you can cast, spoiler, you can cast magic in your enemy phase. I was like, they're gonna let you do whatever your opponent gets to do all of the stuff with all of their things, and then you get to do 1. You know what I mean? I feel like that's how they're doing it, and it's basically like how they're doing it, except you have to pay for it.
Everybody gets 1.
Yep.
So countercharge, you heard it here. Is a lot of this is one of the rules that like a lot of armies have abilities or sub factions that give you like one counter charge in your opponent's phase, right?
Yep.
Mortis Praetorian gives it to you. There's a City of Sigmars does it as an order.
Yep.
There's a couple other armies. Like there's one, I think there's another Death Army that gives it to you. But there's armies in the game that give you a counter charge, right? Which is a very strong ability because it allows you to act out of turn and to dictate combat, not in your turn, which is awesome, right? It is the only ability or the only command that we see that is costing 2 command points.
Yep.
That's because it's so impactful. The direct text is you declare it, you pick a friendly unit that is not in combat when you use this ability. The effect is the unit can use the charge ability as if it were your charge phase, right? That means you have like I am somebody who plays a Squig Point Bounders, right? I have Lance keyword. I will probably have Lance keyword, or I have Lance abilities, right? I'm going to charge, and I get all my charge abilities. You know what I mean? That means my Ren's going up, my damage is going up. I'm getting I'm getting mortals on the charge. You know what I mean? Like this is big.
Yes.
Like in addition for like a lot of armies that play for counterpunch, where it's like you have like chaff units and you're kind of waiting. You know, you have skinks up front, and then you're waiting with like a bunch of Kroxigor, like literally like 5 inches away. You know, they're getting in. They don't just get like, you don't just have to wait until your friends die. You get to party. You get to party with them. Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't give you strike first, which is important, right?
Yeah. So like they again, like because you're charging in their turn,
so
they get to pick first.
Yes, exactly. which is important to note.
Yeah.
But it allows you to dictate combat phase, which is nice.
Yeah. And like one of our friends have pointed out, they said, yeah, like they get to pick first, but like you get to choose the target you're charging. So if I chose a Maw Crusher into like a Steel Home unit, I don't care if they hit me first. You know what I mean?
Come on in.
Sure. Hit me.
Water's fine.
I don't care. I gotta hit you back, and I'm gonna
exactly.
I'm definitely
in
gonna.
addition, if like somebody fails a charge somewhere, or there's a buff piece that's like out in the middle of nowhere, right? Like because like a lot of times, like you know what's it called? City Sigmar, great example, right? You want to get your Cavalier Marshal in with your Cavaliers, right? To like get that fight first, get that like fighting in sequence. You get a lot of buffs, whatever, right? I've seen more than one player that have charged Cavaliers in. They got the Cavaliers in, they didn't get the Marshal in, right?
Yeah.
The Marshal's sitting there back by himself. I got a unit that flies. Oh, dude, I'm totally getting over those dudes and going for that Marshal.
And it's like you do this at the end, right? So you do this after everyone declared charges.
It's all resolved. You get the last thing, which is also super strong.
It's very strong.
Yeah.
Again, this is kind of it is now in the person who's going, whose turn it is to not mess this up. You know what I mean? This is like a very powerful utility piece to punish someone if they messed up how they position for their charge phase.
Oh yeah, very strong, very spicy.
Very.
I think all of these we have 2 more that are also very strong. This is 2 of 4 that are very strong. Yeah. But I think they're giving you tools that change the game, which is nice because it puts more emphasis on the pilot, not the models. You know,
100%. And that's what we want. That's what you and I want. We want it to be an expression of skill, not an expression of memorization or an expression of
I bought the models that are meta.
I bought the right models. You know what I mean? Yeah. That takes us into magical intervention, which the internet is calling Unleash Spell. This is in the enemy hero phase. It is 1 command point, and you declare or you pick a friendly wizard or a priest to use this ability, and then you can use a spell or prayer ability as appropriate, as if it were. This is the important text. As if it were your hero phase. You know what I mean,
dude? Scragrot just got so hot.
I hate it.
So hot. Mortal wounds, mortal wounds, mortal wounds,
yeah.
mortal wounds.
If you do so, you do subtract 1 from the casting or chanting rolls. We haven't seen how they said chanting rolls are changing. We'll see how that like changes this edition. Maybe it'll go to 2d6. I don't know. But it is with wizard or priest. But yeah, now everybody is looking at, I know a lot of people went back and looked at like the Nagash spell. And yeah, Nagash can cast that.
But you don't cast it once, right?
Only cast it once.
Yeah.
And it's minus 1. You know what I mean?
The benefit, there's a lot, but there's like, Curse of Years. Big spell. That's one where you like roll a bunch of dice and then you roll them again and then you roll them again and then you roll them again.
Yeah.
Like there's things that like can very quickly like
I didn't even think about this, but you could probably cast an endless spell.
Or whatever they're calling it now. I can't remember what the word is. They have a sexy new term for
Manifestation
it.
lore or something like that. Yeah, I don't have a Croak model. You know what I mean? I don't have any big wizard stuff, so I'm not like looking at this and being like, oh my god, this is like amazing. You know what I mean? But they are out there. There's spells out there that are insane. So I think like because this exists, I feel like they have to bring that spell in. They have to do like what they did with Nagash, where like Nagash's spell is great because he can do it 9 times. You know what I mean? They also have the caveat that they can't like just like mortal like 9 times on one unit.
On one unit, yeah. It's like each individual unit. So they're reining things in, so it's like over time, not like burst.
So we'll see how that affects with like searing white light, you know, even or blinding white light or whatever Teclis can cast, like the big spells.
Yeah. Or like, I have also a fight last spell.
Yeah,
that's pretty hot. So hot.
Oh, so hot. I'm like getting ready to do my turn. I'm excited, and you're like, you know what? All your stuff that you're about to move, that guy's fight last.
Yeah. Well, it's also like one of those things that like this is at the end of the enemy hero phase, right? So this isn't like after you've charged, so you can kind of plan your turn around it afterward.
Yeah, true.
But if you're like, oh, my battle tactic is I need to get my monster in to fight your monster, I'm gonna be like, well, your monster's fight lasted, so let's tango, brother. Like,
you want the points, you gotta sacrifice that dude. And this is the one again. I think everyone has had like great reactions to this whole article, right? But I think this is the one that set the internet on fire.
This one's kind of wild.
This one is wild. I would love for you to read this because this is kind of a big roll of text.
Because I don't read too good.
I'm not a clever man.
All right. So at the end of any turns, this is after everything has been resolved. You're at the end of the turn, right? It's called Power Through, and this is to give your monsters or your models that have a little more health, a little more oomph. You know what I mean? So you pick a friendly unit that is charged this turn to use this ability. Then you must pick an enemy unit in combat with it, right? To be the target, right? That's it. That's right there. You're declaring, right? The target has to have a lower characteristic than, or sorry, not the target. The target of the ability has to have a lower, like enemy lower characteristic than friendly.
Yeah.
The
site picture is you have a big thing that is pushing through little things.
Yes, exactly. The whole thing's called Power Through. The effect, inflict D3 mortal damage, not mortal wounds. Inflict D3 mortal damage on the target. Then the unit using the ability can move a distance up to its move characteristic. It can pass through and end the move within the combat ranges of enemy units that were in combat with it at the start of the move, but not those of other enemy units. It does not have to end. It does not have to end the move in combat, though. So it's a good like
reposition.
It's a reposition. My Carnosaur is in bad. You know what I mean? I need to get him out of there. Like they charged my Carnosaur. He lived with 3 wounds. I need to get the F out of there. Like, and then you can just yeet him back. You can't move over your own units, right? That's an important caveat. But you can get like if you found yourself caught out or you find yourself like, okay, I've just hit their screen with my big piece and I'm setting myself up for like a tasty double. Like my Incarnate's going to fly over, getting that back line.
Yeah. This is one of those where it's like, it's a little bit more wordy than the other ones, but I think once you see it done once or twice, you're gonna be like, okay, I understand how that works. The big thing is like, there's so much utility on this one thing. If you want to like, put a Gargant in their back line, like you said, and basically just like get ready for that double turn. If you want to, like you said, get your important model that you need out of there to set up to like potentially like start healing up next
back turn. Exactly. Like
as well as just like to do, hey, you know what I mean? You're in combat with one dude and he has like 1 health left, just 1 command point, he's dead.
Yeah.
D3 more damage.
In addition, if you need to like let's say you have a unit that's like it's this because this isn't even just on monsters, right? Like if I have my 2 wound spider riders, right, ran into your 1 wound steel helms, and I want them to go be able to charge your wizard next turn, they fly right over. You know what I mean? Like just to tag up your wizard or do something else, like be a nuisance on the back line.
Yeah, no, there's damage attached to it, there's movement attached to it, and like repositioning at the end of the turn. It's going to be so cool like to watch players play this game, because at the end of the turn, whoever's like going, they get to do this first, and then the other person gets to do this. You know what I mean? So you're also going to see so much, like, I feel like back and forth with like kind of like command point chicken almost, where it's like,
is like honestly command point chicken.
Yeah, because like if you spend all your command points in your turn, you don't have a command point for power through. Now I don't have to worry about you power throughing anymore. You know what I mean? And I get to power through. You know, so I think there's so much utility on this. I'm super excited about it.
Yeah, in addition, you getting them at the top of the turn is a really important mechanic of this, you know?
Yes.
Because then it's like, it's visible to both of you. Not that it's not visible already, but it's like both of you are like, okay, this is my bank, this is your bank. You can see mine going down, and I can see yours going down.
Yeah.
You know?
If you change nothing about third and then implemented this, the entire game changes, right? If you change nothing about third and then include a counter charge that everyone can use, the entire game changes. You know what I mean? I think those two things put so much more emphasis on the priority roll now, which is like, I think that almost nobody's going to take the double because sacrificing points is bad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Especially if those points are tiebreakers. I think good players are not going to do that because they want to win ties.
They want to win the big tournament.
In a big tournament, if you have 8 people that are in 4-1, it's going to be like, all right, who didn't take a double? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think like these elements help kind of swing that back into the like, you can set up for the double really good. You know what I mean? With counter charge and power through, like the setup for the double is very scary.
Yeah, that, and like honestly, the one of the biggest utilities of charging is you get extra movement, right? Like you
100%.
can take those big sloggy, like, you know, trolls or annihilators or whatever on the board, and you can make a charge into its chaff just to move up the board. You know what I mean? Because then you're in a better position on your turn. You know,
the big thing that I mentioned about how Redeploy has the run keyword, right? Then this power through has the move keyword. I assume if you run, you probably can't use any other movement abilities. So I do not think you can redeploy and then countercharge and then power through, right? You would spend, what would that be?
All of your command points.
You would spend all of your command points to do that. You know what I mean? So it'd be expensive, but I don't think you can, because I don't think you can redeploy. You can countercharge and then power through.
Yes.
I think you can definitely do that. You know what I mean? But I don't think you can like redeploy, countercharge, power through, and like just yeet one thing all the way across the board.
Yeah, it's probably one of those things where it's like exactly what you were saying before, where like that charge keyword, like it being treated like a normal charge, basically means that, oh, if you met this other prerequisite, you can't do it.
Yeah,
you know,
if you ran. So it's got the run keyword. And they gave us a war scroll to basically talk about how abilities on war scrolls are going to be affected by or emphasize specific commands. So they showed us a Stormstrike Chariot war scroll, which it was, one, they changed the article. It used to say July 2024 on the top of the war scroll. So if it wasn't a spoiler to anyone, we're getting this in summer, July, June, you know what I mean? So,
Hot girl summer.
We also get another war scroll, which is great. We also, the big thing, I think that everybody kind of like, they're like, yeah, the charge phase thing and the passive thing on the whatever, that's whatever. Oh, these are new ability, like weapon abilities. You know what I mean? And I know James and I, on our side conversations, James has thoughts. So James, please tell me
anger.
Please tell me what you think about these.
Like, it's like they're like the whole point, right? The whole thing that they're trying to do with this edition is they're trying to boil it down and bake it down and give us these like fancy keywords or like fancy like interactions where it's like we don't need these like complicated rules, right? But like then you look at like the Great Stormbow. And like the first thing is it's like, okay, 18-inch range, that's fine, whatever. You get through everything. And then you go to the abilities and it goes anti-infantry. Then in quotations, you get 1 rend, right? That's just an ability, right? That's just text that you took it down there and you put it up there, right? But in addition, it also has another ability where it's a crit and it's 2 hits, right? Which is exploding. Kyle called it before, right? I would have preferred if you said the word exploding. That's just me.
Really?
Yeah, I would have, because it's a keyword, right? If you keyword if you're going to use keywords, I mean, I think honestly, you can get rid of crit. Just get rid of crit and call it exploding. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you roll 6, this like whatever. It's weird that you're like crit, and then it's like it can be anything, right? Because that like this opens up crit to anything.
Yeah,
100%.
Crit could be +1 rend. Crit could be
which
damage.
means like crit isn't really like it's not like a keyword. No, it's like a separate category of effect. You know, which I'm just like. I thought we were taking rules I thought we were taking spice out of the sauce, but then you were like, but what if we add this other spice into the sauce? And we're like, I thought we were removing the spice.
Yeah.
Like
I've because we had this discourse online in a public environment, we had a couple dispute at the Target, you know what I mean?
Yeah, we did. We had a couple to the Target. Kyle was asked to leave. I started to cry.
The police were called. They started mitigating. It is terrible. Yeah. But so like, I definitely understand your thing, and like, if you didn't put the things together, or you said like, yeah, anything in that parenthesis could be anything. So the keywords, the 7 keywords that they're talking about are anti-infantry,
7,
crit, charge, companion. You know what I mean? So like those things, but now they have sub abilities, which are like inside the parentheses of +1, 2 hits, +1 damage. You know what I mean? So like I completely understand where you're coming from with that, right? Because you, like you said, they're no longer keywords; they're just more text, right? However, the thing that I appreciate is we're not reading a paragraph to get that information; it is right there.
True.
And you said you would rather have like 40k has devastating wounds, right?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I get what you mean, like where it's just like, oh, you have a bank of these things and these things equal these things, right?
Yes.
And I understand that. However, I like this more because I don't have to remember devastating wounds equals this. I have to look at it and just say charge. So if I charged, I get this thing gets +1 damage.
Yes.
And just looking at that reduces like the links that you have to do by 1.
I just feel like it's clunky. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and my problem with it is this, right? Is if this is how they're defining ability keywords, right? Then they're not taking rules out of the game, because there's no such, the keywords are just shorter text, right? Like if we had to make this point a little more clear, right? If we had explosion as a keyword, right? You could only ever get 2 hits for every 6, right? With the way this is worded, you can get 3, you can get 4, you can get mortals, you can get
+1 you could get
100%.
+3 damage.
But that's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is like the way that they're implementing it, they're not taking rules out of the game, which I get. Like this is a hot take. People like their rules. They like their specific rules. I think it's easier to manage as a game system when you're like, okay, like this ability invokes this keyword that does this specific thing.
And we only have 7 of those, and we're not gonna iterate on that. There's not gonna be sub abilities.
And the thing that you like pull levers on is your, you know what I mean, like, you know, maybe the points
number
of the model, or like what keywords it includes, or like, you know, not like the keywords don't mean anything if they can mean everything.
What do you think about so like 40k has Melta 4, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Where it's like if you're within half distance, add the 4 to the damage characteristic. You know what I mean? Do you disagree with that? Would you rather it just be Melta be a set number, or do you like the idea that they have the lever of each one could be a different number, and that's something how you balance it?
I think that's better. Like the fact that it like kind of locks into one. There's one modifier, right? Like, you know, I'm better with that. But the fact that crit, right? And I know that there's like I'm getting upset over like 2 branches that we're seeing emerge, because that's what we've had confirmed, right? Most likely there's only like 2 or 3 branches, right? Like I think
crit, like, and then like the sub abilities,
mortals,
like hit, damage,
or auto hit is like the other one we haven't seen yet, you know? So auto wound, like that's the only one we haven't seen yet, right? That I think that I'm anticipating is coming. I just think that we were promised simple, and this is more simple, but I wouldn't call this simple. You know what I mean? Yeah.
It, I don't mind it because I can look at the page and I know I'm good on it. I do agree that like it is going to get very crazy when it comes to like you, especially like when you start adding multiple things on it with multiple subcategories. Like anti-infantry is plus rend, crit is 2 hits. You know what I mean? I think that's easy to understand what it does, but now you're keeping track of 2 more things on one weapon. You know,
and it's not like this is for ease of the pilot, not the opponent, right?
True.
Like the ease of the opponent is, hey, my weapons have lance. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Or
you immediately
you
immediately know what that is. Yeah. Or like now it's like I tell you, my opponent, hey, my weapons have a charge ability. You know what I mean? And I'm like, and I go, okay, what's the charge ability? You know, and then it's like, okay, +1 damage.
Yeah. You could very easily have some of them have charge be +1 damage and some be +1 damage and +1 rend.
Totally, 100%. But I'm saying is like and again, you're crying over spilt milk, but like
your feelings are valid.
I just feel like it's like there was a better option here, and what they have done, I think they could have done it better. You know, I'm not saying I could have done it better, but I'm saying they could have done it better.
Yeah, it is definitely misleading when they say, "Hey, we have 7 weapon abilities," and you're like, "Oh, that's sick! I can't wait to learn these 7 weapon abilities." And it's really we have 7 like main abilities, and then we have almost infinite options
sub abilities
do to put inside the parentheses. I understand what you're saying. You know what I mean? I like this because this makes like I can look at it and instantly know what's going on. I think it will get a little bit muddled as soon as you have. I mean, Lord knows what Kragnos is going to get. Lord knows what the Incarnate is going to get. You know what I mean? So like I think that's going to get a little more confusing. Just like because I know we're getting close to the time.
Yes.
So I don't know what Companion does. We don't like we know that it's the birds and it's affected by all out attack. I don't know why they have to mention that it's a companion. We'll see what those rules are later. And kind of going back to the command points. So if champion is a keyword, but you're not, because we thought it was you would have to, that could give itself orders or give itself commands. What it doing there if it doesn't have anything to do with commands? If it's +1 attack, I'm going to freak out. You know what I mean? Because like just put it on the war scroll if that's the thing.
Was that in the Liberator?
Yeah, it was in the Liberator thing. They never said what it was for. They just said that it exists, and it was in the keywords. Like where this one has, where this one has War Machine, they had infantry and champion.
Yeah. Well, it's nice that the anti-infantry is definitely anti-infantry.
True. I don't think that's confusing. I do understand what you're saying.
It's just clunky.
It's a little clunky. It has the potential to get clunky, right? Briefly to wrap this up, I think the Stormstrike Chariot, I own one. It's pretty. I think it got a little bit worse. Again, with their the movement went down.
More gross.
The movement went down, the health went down, the controls stayed the same, the saves stayed the same. They lost if they make a charge, they're -1 to hit, which was kind of something that was helping keeping them alive. Even at 12 health, you know what I mean? Now it's down to 10. The bow stonks definitely went up. The bow was not really the thing that you would take. The spear was definitely the thing that you would take. And now people are speculating the charge thing should probably be on the spear and not on the axe.
It's crazy.
I mean, it's better because it has a 3 attached to it, instead of a 2, like for attack. So you could potentially get 6 damage out of this axe. But it's definitely a little bit weird. And then it has like the War Machine keyword, and then it's in the Warrior Chamber, which will be relevant next podcast. And again, so like this had the old Annihilator charge, which was extremely swingy. If you rolled a 12 to charge, guess what? You roll 12 dice on a 4-up, it's 1 mortal wound. So like you're typically doing like 6 mortal wounds like on the charge, which is like you could fail your charge and do nothing, or you could get a nice 9-inch charge and then roll dice and not get it. You know what I mean? Not get any of the 4-ups, and it was like super swingy. So I think with this, it's basically the replacement of that is if this unit charged, pick an enemy within 1 to be the target, roll, and people kind of got confused by this because you roll a D3, and on a 2-up on the D3, inflict the amount of mortal damage onto the target equal to the roll. So 1s and 2s, no.
Nothing.
Yeah. If you roll a 3, 4, 5, or 6, it goes off, and then If you roll a 3 or 4, it's 2 damage. A 5 or 6, it's 3. But again, you're reducing that. It's either 2 damage or 3 damage. You're reducing it.
And it might not happen. Yeah.
And it might not happen. Again, that's just like a reduction of the swinginess back to here. A more consistent, more small thing. And then the other one is this affects the power through command. It's passive, so it's always going off. And when this unit uses the power through command, inflict an additional D3 mortal wounds. So now you're doing 2 D3 mortal wounds automatically, just with a command point, and add D6 to the distance this unit can move through as part of that ability.
Yeah,
so
it's crazy.
There's like, I think it potentially got worse because there's some things that it had baked in originally where like it filled a very specific slot. This is like a very cool slot for a Chariot specifically because you want to charge in, you want to deal, ideally 3 mortal wounds. You want to then pay a command point to power through, deal 2d3 mortal wounds, and then get out of there. You know what I mean? And you want to shoot on the way in.
Yeah, like it's like you want to get all the utility. It's
exactly.
Like, shoot in, out, shoot in, out.
Yeah, you want to. I like this more because like the Chariot has a massive base, and what you're currently doing with it in 3rd edition is you're using it as a screen. You're like just taking up space, using it as a fast screen. Because it's not holding points, you know what I mean? This, at least, it feels like it's playing like a Chariot, where it's like running into things, charging into things, running around the board, doing all things. So it's like, I like it conceptually. I don't think I would ever like. There's so many. Like, would you rather spend 1 command point and power through with Karazai, or would you rather spend 1 command point and power through with the Stormstrike?
With the Chariot, because you can't do it twice.
You can't do it twice. You get to pick one, and hell, I'd like to do this on Stormstrike Guard rather than you guys, than this one guy. You know what I mean? I think like that's a too powerful ability to be spending on a Chariot, unless this carries over into Spearhead, which it's your only option. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, the War Machine keyword is going to be interesting. I'm going to make a hot take. I'm going to say it lets you shoot into combat. I don't think you can shoot into combat anymore unless you're a War Machine.
Wow, that is a hot take.
Mm-hmm.
Damn, that's going to suck for bows.
Well, I hope shooting gets worse in this edition. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
So I think that's one of the things that they could do to make shooting worse.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But are there any final notes that you want to do covering all of our commands that we're looking at?
No, I think I'm good. I'm interested to talk about the commands through the lens of like what we have coming up. So like I'm excited.
Yeah.
That's all I'm gonna say.
Makes
the game so spicy.
Yes. It definitely makes the game feel a lot more like you're sitting there and you're waiting to do your impactful things on your opponent's turn, which is something that they've always wanted to do. They didn't want you to sit there for 30 minutes and just like watch your opponent move, watch your opponent roll dice, and then you eventually just save. And I think this is like it's going to be a much more of a, instead of in the hero phase, the person going is going to say like, these are the things that I'm going to do. You know what I mean? Like through the whole turn, like I know in my head, these are all things. And now it's going to be like a lot more like I do a thing. They respond. Now I have to rethink. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I think good people are going to just like, they're going to be like, oh yeah, I do this, you do this, I do this, you do this. But there's a lot of dice tied to that. So again, we play it out.
Play it out podcast.
That's why we're here. Yeah, I'm excited for everything. I like all the things that they're doing. I like the groundwork system. I like the reining things in, bringing it from big spikes or no spikes to little spikes that are more controllable. So I'm super excited about it. It's going to be fun. We're going to have fun. It's going to be an absolute cluster for like 1 to 3 months. You know what I mean? But I think after everyone kind of gets used to it,
it's going to be a fun cluster.
It's going to be a fun cluster. People speculating on what potentially this means for the meta. You probably want one big dude to just run in and be countercharging and powering through and like be just an absolute untamable beast in wrecking ball in their thing. And then you want to find whatever shooting unit is really good in your army, reinforce it, plop it in your army, and pay 1 command point
shoot every turn.
Something. You know what I mean? Free damage across the board. So I'm excited.
Me too. I honestly think they're going to do a good job of like mitigating shooting, but they gave shooting kind of another avenue to put out damage.
Yeah.
And I think that's why they're going to mitigate shooting.
God, I hope so.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to live in a world where we get, bow snaked off the board.
Dude, Grinning Blades. Swamp Donkey.
You get swamp donkeyed from across the board and you can't do anything about it and you just gotta sit there while he shoots and you're shooting phase.
It's like fun time.
Goon. Oh, good times. I'm excited. All right. We'll catch you guys next time where we're gonna be breaking down what they said about the new battle formations, which is the sub factions, and they revealed a bunch of battle traits and battle formation stuff for the Stormcast. So I'm excited. Baby. I deep dived that on the plane ride back. So we'll talk about that next time. And thanks for hanging out. I appreciate it. Talk to you guys later. See you guys.